Good morning, everyone. My name's Tim Haab. I'm the director of the School of Environment and Natural Resources here at Ohio State. On behalf of the Environmental Professionals Network, we're glad to see everybody here today. And we're really pleased to have such a big crowd with us today. Also, I want to welcome everybody joining us online. Even more people have signed up to be online than we have in the room today, so we're really excited about that number. And thank you all. This program is our 10th annual partnership between the Environmental Professionals Network, the Water Management Association of Ohio, TerrAqua. By the way, the Water Management Association of Ohio goes by WAMO when you hear me say that. TerrAqua, which is WAMO's affiliated student organization, and the Ohio Water Resources Center. For the past 9 years, we've partnered with these organizations to host, sorry, my pages are stuck together. 9 March EPN breakfasts in a row, including during COVID, that were focused on critical water management issues. Water connects us all. Water management tends to bring us all together. Today, we focus on the emerging strategy of water reuse that's increasingly being applied to balance economic growth with water resource sustainability. The purpose of today's event is to bring together a wide range of water resource management and environmental professionals. When we come together at programs such as this, we can realize that each of our work tends to contribute to similar goals related to natural resource protection and sustainability. At its core, today's program is about growing our understanding of each other's work and perspectives for water reuse, which is an emerging topic in water management. We're pleased that we have a wide variety of organizations here today, including city government representatives from Columbus, New Albany, Marysville, Newark, Worcester, Macedonia, and Toledo. We have state agencies here, including Ohio EPA and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. Conservation districts, such as in Fayette, Hamilton, Licking, Hocking, and more. Private businesses and consulting firms, including Intel, Advanced Drainage Systems, CDM Smith, and MS Consultants. Large number of nonprofit organizations and university partners are here also. And as we're always proud to have, we have over 100 students here today. That might be a record for EPN. This morning we have a fantastic lineup of speakers with us here, both in the room and virtually, including a policy director from the Ohio EPA, administrator for the Columbus Division of Water, administrator for a soil and water conservation district with emerging water reuse infrastructure, conservation practitioners with the Nature Conservancy. Unfortunately, Amazon Web Services Sustainability Representative Diana Rodriguez couldn't make it today due to an unforeseen circumstance. But she looks forward to interacting with her community in the future, such as the June 10th Water Reuse EPN field trip. We also, as always, want to be able to thank our sponsors, specifically Ohio EPA's new sponsorship that we have today. We couldn't do this without our sponsors' support. Our sponsors help to cover the cost of student registration and live streaming. All program sponsors are listed on the back page of the program brochure. Sponsorship support allows us to offer low-cost participation to students who are the next generation of environmental professionals. Also, sponsorships allow us to connect with a wider audience by helping us to provide our live streaming format at the EPN breakfast programs. If you're interested in having your organization become a sponsor, reach out to the EPN staff after the program. Sponsors get included seats at all EPN programs, the ability to table at all programs for free, and are included in our promotional materials. The brochure, there's a few brochures on each table that we invite you to share. There's also a QR code that you can take a look at that has the full brochure in it. Live stream, there's a link in the chat for the brochure. This link will take you to an online brochure, which is where you'll find information about each of our speakers, including their headshots and professional bios. For our in-person guests, you can take a photo of the QR code located on your table to get the same online brochure. We also have some paper copies, as I mentioned. Okay. For our friends on YouTube, please feel free to use the chat when you have questions. You can put your comments, thoughts, questions. Our team will be reviewing those questions, and we'll take questions from the in-person audience around 9:05 this morning. As always, our EPM breakfast is a zero waste event. Please pay attention to the signage posted in the hallway and at the door over here. You can compost any remaining food items on your plate, as well as sort out materials destined for the landfill or recycling. We'll provide more instructions before you leave about returning your reusable plates, cups, bowls, and cutlery items. All reusable items are distinguished by their scarlet color. Thanks for your help. This year, we're spotlighting some of our School of Environment and Natural Resources student ambassadors to represent student voices. We have two here today that are going to come up and speak shortly. Lydia Schiopota, Jenna Malloy are going to come and speak in just a minute. But first, we're going to kick off today's breakfast. We're going to welcome Linda Weavers up, who is the co-director of the Ohio Water Resources Center.
Good morning. It's great to see so many faces, so many familiar faces, and so many new faces. So I'm grateful to be able to learn here today with you about water reuse. So I'm Linda Weavers. I co-direct the Ohio Water Resources Center that's situated at Ohio State University. We are the federally authorized and state-designated Water Resources Research Institute for the state of Ohio. In 1964, Congress passed legislation, the Water Resources Research Act, allowing us to exist and establishing the Water Resources Research Institutes in all of the states and territories, 54 of us total. The goal for that legislation was to provide state-relevant research and connecting the WRRIs nationally so that we had a national network and could connect regionally as well as focus on state issues. Obviously, the issues that are relevant to us in Ohio generally are different than those that are in places like Arizona. Water reuse may be starting to connect us in different ways than we had thought in the past, however. So we conduct that state-enabled research through the Water Resources Research Act. We have a small RFP program. We foster collaboration among researchers and state stakeholders like you all, and we train the next generation of water scientists so that we can keep that knowledge in and progress on water continuing. We also educate the public. So over the past 5 years, the Water Resources Research Institute that we have, we've funded 32 projects at 9 universities here in the state of Ohio. So we don't just keep our funding at Ohio State University, but we spread it out. And we work really hard to be good stewards of the federal dollars that we receive. So we've, in the past few years, we've leveraged $20 for every dollar that we get federally through this act. So I encourage you to check out our website, wrc.osu.edu, to learn a little bit more about the things that we do. And I want to just give a little plug for the Interdisciplinary Water Symposium. This is a symposium that is going to be going on its third year. So it was started a couple of years ago, and it was started by graduate students, and it's wholly organized and run by these graduate students. They were here in this venue last year, and they filled it up. They brought in students that were doing research on Ohio's water problems from places throughout the state. So it's a great place to interact with some of those trained water scientists that are just getting ready to go out the door and look for jobs. So if anybody's interested in being part of it or helping to sponsor it, that'd be great, because it was no cost to these students, and it was just their organization, and they worked on getting donations to be able to run it. So please reach out to us for that. And Haley Fernandez, are you out here? Can you raise your hand? She's the one that's organizing it. She's our grad student on that. So I'm really excited to learn about water reuse. EPN has got a fabulous program planned for you today. We're all here, I think many of us, because we're realizing that water reuse may become a reality very soon in Ohio. Central Ohio is growing. The number of data centers, which are large users of water, is growing here. And so we're realizing we don't have limitless water resources, even in Ohio, where it's kind of cloudy. You might think it's going to rain soon. And so we need to be thinking about the future. And so I'm really excited to be here with you today. And we're glad to be sponsors of it. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lydia Schiopota. I'm a third-year undergraduate student here at Ohio State, and I'm studying environmental science with a specialization in water science. I'm also the treasurer of TerrAqua Club, which is a student organization associated with the Water Management Association of Ohio and is one of today's sponsors.
Hello, and my name is Jenna Malloy. And not to steal Lydia's line, but I'm also a third-year undergraduate student here at Ohio State, studying environmental science with a water science specialization. I'm the TerrAqua president. On behalf of TerrAqua and all students here today, we're so excited to open today's event on water reuse. I'm sure that each of the nearly 100 students here today, both in person and online, are as passionate about water resource sustainability as I am. As students, each of us joins today's program with a unique skill set and perspective informed by our own majors or internship experiences. For example, in my coursework and in the TerrAqua Club, we typically focus on aquatic sciences and natural resource conservation. In fact, my photo in today's pamphlet on your tables shows me in a river measuring aquatic biodiversity through sampling macroinvertebrates. Not exactly engineering focused, which is of course central to water reuse. And while Lydia and I focus on aquatic sciences, there are plenty of environmental engineering students here today too. Regardless, we all come to the table to focus on water resource management, each armed with a variety of experiences and perspectives. Water is an essential part of our daily lives, and so I look forward to hearing our speakers discuss why cities across Ohio are diving into water reuse strategies and how they might help to balance economic sustainability and environmental sustainability. More than that, I look forward to learning how students like us can get involved.
For the last 2 years, I have been attending EPN events to learn more about different industries like water reuse and to create connections with professionals. As a relatively introverted person, despite me standing up here today, I have always been intimidated by the networking process. But I've learned that this discomfort only lasts a short while, and all it takes is a hello. So today, I'd like to highly encourage my fellow students to put themselves out there and talk to someone new and make connections with the professionals sitting next to them. Additionally, I'd like to encourage the professionals in this room to seek out those students and help them start those conversations they came here to have. And now I have the honor of introducing today's next speaker, Tiffani Kavalec, who is the Policy Director at Ohio EPA. Tiffani's expertise leads policy across all EPA divisions, and she has recently spearheaded agency initiatives to foster acceptability and adaptation of water reuse projects here in Ohio. Thank you for listening, and please welcome Tiffani Kavalec. Thank you.
Magic. Hi. Good morning. Well, very happy to be here today. Everything I'm going to talk to you about could be a full day on its own, but luckily I have about 20 minutes, 15 maybe. So this will be quick, but it'll be hopefully a good taste. So if you're not familiar with watershed boundaries, Central Ohio is actually in the headwaters of the Ohio River watershed. We in Central Ohio do not have access to the Great Lakes, Lake Erie. We do not have access to the Ohio River. We do have a lot of rivers that run through the city, but it's limited, and it's all thanks to our drinking water. We capture it north of town and then service everyone's potable water because of the reservoirs that are up north. So this hopefully will acclimate you that our resources in Central Ohio are actually limited, where those on the Ohio River and Lake Erie are pretty much unlimited. We've also heard lots of headlines in the last couple of years. Back in April of 24, Forbes said we were the fastest growing city, but I think just for that month. It turns out in all of 24, it looks like we were maybe the second fastest growing city once the year was done. But we keep jogging in the ranks of growing so quickly. A lot of this has to do with the big investments that we've brought to the state through our Jobs Ohio arm. Our Intel partners are here in the room. The Honda LG plant down in Fayette County. These are giant manufacturing operations that are bringing a lot of jobs and a lot of construction jobs as well as long-term jobs to Central Ohio, but they're also water users, and they're bringing supply chain companies that need to come help support them. And this is actually just a heat map that MORPC created that's drive times. So the darker the blue, it's about a 20-mile drive time, and the lighter colors are the 40-mile drive time. So that's a likely commute for somebody to drive 40 miles for a good paying job. But this is the footprint that MORPC is anticipating that we're going to get another 1 million people in Central Ohio over the next 20 years. So it's not just that we're getting a lot of industry and data centers, but our population is going to substantially increase, and the demand for water, for potable water, is going to increase substantially. When we talk about data centers, Ohio is actually number 4 in the country, how many data centers we have. And the city of Columbus alone is 10th in the country. You'll see the 423 in Virginia. That's Loudoun, Virginia. They have the most. They service a lot of their data centers through wastewater treatment effluent because most of the data centers just need the water for cooling. They don't need the water to be drinkable to run through their cooling systems. And data centers also cycle their water several times through the cooling system, and it becomes very concentrated. And it has a lot of salts after the evaporation, and that's hard on our aquatic life, and it's also hard on our wastewater treatment plants. So in Loudoun, Virginia, they can discharge that salty water right into the Chesapeake Bay. In Ohio, we don't have any salty water to discharge this back. So when we talk about servicing reuse water for these data centers, we also have to contemplate what are we going to do with the waste streams that come back from the data centers. When we think about data centers, a lot of us just pop straight to social media, right? It's my Facebook, it's my Amazon accounts. But government, we've pretty much gotten rid of all of our servers. Everything is in the cloud for all of our government files. Think about the military that we have in Ohio with Wright Pat, and there's a lot of military bases. Hospital systems, are you kidding me? I can go on and see my blood work and my MRIs at my fingertips. So all this data has to be stored. Research institutions like Ohio State. So it's not just the big companies that we hear about, but there's a lot of smaller data centers that are holding all of this information. So currently, and this number grows quickly, we have 1,800 data centers throughout the state of Ohio. This is a heat map, so it almost, as you can see, it almost touches every single county. Central Ohio, Cleveland, and Hamilton County obviously are the highest right now. But with 1,800 data centers, a lot of these communities have been asked by the data centers to supply them water from their wastewater treatment plant after it's been treated. So think about wastewater goes through the plant, it gets treated to water quality standards, and then discharges into our local streams and rivers, and then it goes down to the Gulf. Now, there's a concept that the data centers actually want that recycled water to run through their data centers because it's not spending the energy to make something drinkable. And it's more expensive. They can actually, the local utilities can actually sell their wastewater effluent that's right now going down to the Gulf and sell it back to the data centers for a profit. Data centers need it to be a little cleaner than water quality standards. So there's concepts out there now that our consultants are going to walk you through to make water reusable for these processes. You'll hear the term purple pipe, and purple pipe is simply reusing water coming from a wastewater treatment plant. It's a new utility line that we do not yet have specifically in Ohio as purple. We are reusing water from wastewater treatment plants currently. Delaware County is using it for irrigating golf courses, so is Mason, Ohio. So it's not necessarily a new concept. It's being done all over the country in Florida, Arizona, Colorado, California, Texas. It's kind of a novel idea here in Central Ohio because we do have a lot of water, but we need to start using it a little more smart. So when we were being approached at Ohio EPA by these utilities saying, hey, this data center wants to use my wastewater effluent for their cooling water, what do I do? And we don't have rules and regulations specifically dictating what to do. And so we went to US EPA. US EPA, what do we do? What standards do we meet to do this activity? And they don't regulate water reuse. It's not under the Clean Water Act. It's not under the Safe Drinking Water Act. It lives somewhere in between, and they have really left it up to the states to figure it out, which is, it's not great. But when Ohio EPA was trying to look for guidance, we found this Water Reuse Association. It's a national organization. It's a trade group that is utility focused to help utilities navigate this space. And so we worked with them to set up a new chapter. We were the first in the Midwest to have a water reuse chapter. Thanks to our fine Central Ohio utilities like the City of Columbus, Delaware County, Delco, several in Licking County, they came together and helped us form a chapter and get this started. And what this chapter has done for us is organize us. And it's organized the state regulators, it's organized our utilities, and it's organized our consulting firms that have partnerships throughout the country that are doing this all over the country and bringing that expertise here to Ohio so we can evaluate what other states are doing and decide which one will work for us moving forward. We already have almost 60 members, which is incredible. We just became a chapter in March of '24, and we have John Newsome, who's going to speak, is the current president. We have several folks here in the audience that are members, but you can see the demand that's coming, and I think these utilities, if you notice where they're located, most of them are in Central Ohio, but some of them MSD, they're right on the Ohio River. Why would they want to be part of water reuse? We've also heard from Jobs Ohio that we're missing out on international companies coming to Ohio in general because we don't have pre-plumbed purple pipe industrial parks. So there's a lot of sustainable, conscious companies around the world that they want recycled water for their manufacturing, and they're willing to site in a state that can offer that. So when you see Euclid and places that, Toledo, they have water. It's just using the water in a more sustainable way to attract economic growth. Membership consists of either a utility, a business-related reuse, which often is our consulting firms, or folks that offer products for the reuse technologies. And then institutions and nonprofits, we've got Licking County Soil and Water, which is a government entity. We've got our state agencies, and the Ohio Water Reuse Center is a member. But those are considered our kind of institutions and nonprofits. You can't be an individual and sign up with the organization. Unfortunately, you have to be part of an organization. We have quickly broke out into 6 subcommittees to forward this effort. We have a financial committee that's led by Mike Frommer, who's here in the audience, if you want to tap him. We have a non-potable reuse, which is that purple pipe, and this is to reuse wastewater either in a manufacturing setting, data center, golf course, agriculture. We have on-site reuse, which is basically, it's right outside the building, and you can have a recycling center on that. I believe that's what Intel is planning to build, is an on-site reuse system. We have an outreach committee that's led by Kyle. Where are you, Kyle? And then potable reuse, which is led by Jonathan Sheets, who's also speaking today. And then regulatory. What rules and regulations does Ohio EPA have on our books right now that may hamstring us from moving forward and doing what we want to do? And how are we going to define all of the terms that are in this new program? So the regulatory program is really setting the stage for what we mean by purple pipe, what we mean by non-potable, what standards are we trying to meet, and setting those definitions so we're all speaking the same language. Our goal is to try to have a framework for reuse throughout all of these pieces and parts by the end of 2025. And ultimately, we'd like to have an Ohio Water Reuse Action Plan that anyone around the world could come and open up this book and say, I want to do this with reuse, and it walks them through the framework of exactly what permits they need, what standards they need to meet for the fit for purpose of how they're going to reuse that water. So some of the planning that we're doing around water reuse in Central Ohio is based upon a regional water study that we just completed with Hazen and Sawyer. And Kathleen Smith was the project manager of that particular effort. But it really, we had to, everyone was scared. All of these big companies were coming to Central Ohio. All of this population is coming. All of these data centers are here and growing. Are we going to have enough water for the future? And so we wanted to step back and do some planning efforts and say, what's our current water supply in our reservoirs, our streams, our groundwater? Who's using it? And then what's that projected demand going to be in 2030, 2040, 2050 when the population gets here, when these data centers start doubling and tripling, when the Intel phases start coming online and the Honda plants. So we also wanted to look at regionalization opportunities, water reuse opportunities, and where in Central Ohio are we going to have plenty of water that we should locate our next big water user. We don't want to put the water users in a place that we are now projecting that's not going to have water in the future or enough for that type of use. This is just a schematic that kind of walks through the modeling concept. But this is the model, and the model is a live dashboard, and it's very complex and has a lot of data layers and inputs. It has every Ohio EPA and ODNR permit built into it. But ultimately, when you scale in and select different scenarios, it shows you where we're going to have gaps in the system, whether it's a gap in the groundwater, whether it's a gap on a water treatment plant, a gap on wastewater capacity, a gap from the stream going dry. And so anytime there's a gap, we had the consultants build out projects locally, regionally, and water reuse. And I'll show you just one example. This is Hebron. Hebron had a gap, and they have a gap to supply manufacturing industrial cooling water. So they could expand their water treatment plant, the potable water, make potable water something that's drinkable, and then give that to the manufacturing. But look, that's going to cost approximately $21 million to do that scenario. They could connect with Licking Regional for about $11 million, which is less capital investment on the small village of Hebron, or they could build a water reuse system on the back end of their wastewater treatment plant for the same cost and supply that water to the manufacturing facility. So this is the type of deep level planning that we have worked with our communities, and we hope to roll this out for all 15 counties in central Ohio and all of the gaps and all the projects that the consultants have identified for them within a couple of weeks. So at some point, I think the EPN network might want us to roll out and give a full-scale overview of all of the findings in central Ohio from this water study. That's all I have for today. Thank you.
Good morning. Good to be here this morning. So again, John Newsome, Administrator, Division of Water, City of Columbus. And what I'm going to do, kind of our journey at the city, give you some high-level perspectives of why we're looking at reuse. John and Mike with CDM will give the more in-depth detail. Later today, they actually have the RFP looking at this for the City of Columbus as we go deeper in the weeds on how this can be a reality for the city. So let me start, 1871, population is 32,000 people here in Columbus. This is actually the beginning of the division of water as well. This is when we first started putting water out into the system. You can see schematics of the city there. Here we are, 2024, over 900,000 people. And actually my service area is in excess of 1.4 million people. So dramatic change in the history of division of water as we continue to grow as a region, providing water to those in the surrounding communities. As Tiffani said, really, even though Ohio is a wet state, we get a lot of rainfall, we're in the middle of the state, and capturing that rainfall is very critical to how we operate. So this is actually the source water. This is the source water that we get here in Columbus from the surface water side. You'll see a note there. We do have one groundwater plant. We're in the headwaters of the Mississippi River. So as Tiffani mentioned, some other communities in the Midwest have access to large bodies of water they can have access to. We're not as fortunate here in Columbus. So every rainfall drop we have to capture to make sure that we have resources and water available well into the future. Here's a picture of those reservoirs. Again, kind of spread out throughout the region, mostly to the north. I'll go in a little bit further on why reuse is, as you look at this graphic, why reuse is really important to us. As I said, down the bottom, we do have one area dedicated to groundwater, but most of ours is surface water that we're capturing. So here we are, expansion going in the future, 2025 and above. We do have in the books, we actually have an RFP coming out in the very near future, about a month. All you consultants in the room, prime yourselves for that, looking at additional upground reservoirs to the north. After that, we have no more dedicated land available for reservoirs. When we build reservoirs now, a couple things. As you can imagine, the environmental restrictions are much different than they were 100 years ago, so we have to be more cognizant of that, as we should be. The other thing is we are taking prime farmland out of commission when we build reservoirs. Acres, hundreds of acres of prime farmland we have to take out of commission when we build reservoirs. So is that sustainable for the future? You know, it's one of those things that we're debating, but again, we don't have additional allocations right now to the north, and I don't anticipate we're going to continue looking to the north. We've kind of maximized our resources in that area. We are currently designing in our Parsons Avenue wellfield site, so that's the wellfield down south of the city. We are looking at expanding wells there, again, but we are limited on groundwater. That does buy us well into the future. But again, as Tiffani said, we got 1 million people coming into our region in the next 20 to 30 years. We have to be planning now so we're not reactionary in the future. So as I said, cost of reservoirs. These reservoirs are hundreds of millions of dollars to build. Very, very expensive. And again, this is just capturing water. This is not treating the water. As I mentioned, the environmental aspect, I'm taking prime farm field out, and again, we are not building reservoirs like we did where we're damming up rivers and so forth to capture water. Jurisdictional. So I'll go back to the slide previous just to give you an indication what I'm talking about here. So the John R. Dowd, which is that top to my right, to your left, that is well outside the city of Columbus. And my additional reservoirs that I'm building, again, outside the city of Columbus. So we are really expanding outside our proper jurisdiction to build these reservoirs. Additional ground well sites. So that requires additional pumping and piping. So as that well field expands, that gets further and further away from our water plant to treat the water coming back in. And well-filled protection zones. So one of the things we have to consider when we build groundwater wells is the well-filled protection zone. So obviously that limits the amount of type impacts we can have on the well field. So you don't want certain chemicals and certain contaminants getting down into your well field. So we have to be very cognizant of that. Robert Andrews, I see him here in the back, so if you raise your hand there, if you want any questions about Robert, definitely talk to him. That's the person that really takes charge of what we do here in Columbus, making sure that well field's protected. Again, as we look to expand that really hampers the amount of industrial growth we can have in there because we are very cognizant of that. So, switching over to the reuse side. What are the drivers for future water demands here in Central Ohio? As Tiffany said, one of the big things, the data centers. Huge water users, they don't need potable water. We can provide them other means of water without having to treat it. And treating water is a very expensive venture for basically a product just used as a bypass. The other thing that we're trying to do here in the city, and John will talk a little bit more about this when he comes up later today, is we are here in the city looking at regions within City of Columbus proper where we can actually look at purple pipe and other installations to really focus in, as Tiffany mentioned herself, areas where we can encourage industrial growth in our network area. So again, a very proactive approach to looking at reuse in the system so that we're not scrambling at a scattered shot type of development in Columbus, Ohio. If we can focus that to one certain area, that expands the potential for reuse in our system, and again, sustainability well into the future. So that's all I've got. Like I said, John and Mike, we're going to go much more detail of that, of what we're looking at, but I'll be around for a little bit if you have any questions for me. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How are you feeling this morning? Good? All right, great. Well, my name is Shana Byrd, and I am the lead for the Ohio Nature Conservancy. And myself and Kristy Hawthorne, who you'll hear from in just a moment, are very grateful to be here with you this morning. We're excited to be a part of this conversation because we all understand, everyone in this room and listening online, that water is essential. It's essential for our life, of course, clean, fresh drinking water, we all need it, but we also need water for nature. We need water for wildlife. We need water for industry. We're going to be talking more about that, of course, throughout the day. So what we're going to share with you is the need to be thinking broadly, to be thinking creatively about this common need, and it's part of our story of what we need to survive. So today's theme, of course, is about the growing demand for water, and particularly here in Central Ohio. And as I said, it really requires us to think broadly about our solutions. So, of course, it just makes sense to be thinking about water reuse in the locations where that's possible, where the technology exists, and where it doesn't make sense to draw on our freshwater resources and to utilize this precious resource, of course, that we need for our own survival, as I said. And so we want to also look at nature-based solutions. The solutions you see here are ways in which we can also help meet that growing demand by relying on natural infrastructure to recharge groundwater, restore floodplains, and perform wetland restoration as functions to also continue to recycle by nature. The Nature Conservancy has committed to restore enough river to wrap around the earth 25 times. That's a lot of river. So in order to reach that ambitious goal, it's obviously going to require a multi-pronged approach. And so this conversation is really starting broadly, and we're thinking about it in a global context. But really, it is rooted in the fact that it is really our local actions in our communities that are looking at our resources and our networks. So in order to conserve millions of acres around the globe, we're also at the Nature Conservancy leveraging science and the information that we know with nearly 1,000 scientists. We have 1 million members, and we have thousands of partners and community volunteers. And these are really the folks that are making this work happen. And so there's no doubt that these goals are ambitious. If you start to look at these numbers, you may say, how will we ever get there? But they are ambitious by necessity. And that is because we have this one big vision, and that is to address the dual crisis of climate and biodiversity loss. And while these are big, ambitious numbers, I am encouraged by the fact that the math adds up. If we are able to achieve these numbers, we will be able to meet our goal to mitigate the impacts that we're facing today. And it's going to be a necessary strategy because we'll also need to be thinking about it on all three levels, from the global level to the regional level and the local level as well. In order to reduce our emissions, we have to involve people in the work that we do in order to restore the lands and water on which all life depends, which is our mission. Our work is also multifaceted. Again, we have to be thinking broadly and creatively. So that involves work in water policies. And these are obviously large-scale levers that we can all utilize and participate in to ensure that our freshwater resources are preserved and protected. We also work on infrastructure, and I mentioned natural infrastructure in order to capture, restore, and filter our freshwater resources. And then oftentimes this is being done through the restoration of healthier wetlands, rivers, and floodplains that provide that natural infrastructure that otherwise will allow pollutants and sediment to enter our waterways and further degrade them. So our reach is, as I said, global, but is also on the national level. And on the national level, we have thousands of projects in all 50 states, and we operate in 70 different countries. And one of the most important things that we need to do is unlock the financial resources that are needed in order to make any of these possibilities reality. And so one of the ways the Nature Conservancy is doing that is to tap into, again, the science that supports the goals that I mentioned earlier. And so we are using the data available to create a prioritization of mapping where we need to focus our restoration work. And of course, that's on the sort of national level, but we all know that Ohio is the heart of it all. So I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing right here in Ohio with our freshwater conservation programs. We don't have time to talk about all of our projects. There are hundreds happening right here in Ohio. Again, that encourages me. One of which is our program to offset development impacts through our Ohio Stream and Wetland Mitigation Program. Obviously, this development, as we've talked about, is inevitable. It is coming and it's going to continue. So how can we offset those impacts through restoration? We are now celebrating our 10th year with this program, and we have more than 50 projects in the pipeline. We also are working with communities throughout the state on aquatic health through invasive species management at scale, so cooperative weed management areas. And as I mentioned, statewide policies that support wise use of freshwater resources. If we're scaling across Ohio, and it was mentioned, Tiffany spent time talking about the Great Lakes and what an incredible resource they are for Ohio and the region, of course, as a whole. And as one of the most important ecological ecosystems in Ohio, we have a large focus on the estuaries and the rivers that are flowing into Lake Erie. So there are now hundreds of projects, not only on Lake Erie and shoreline restoration, but as I mentioned, wetlands and river restoration, throughout the state. It looks like Tiffany and I were reading the same article, so you may even see this again. I think the reason this captures everybody's imagination is, we live here in Ohio, and to imagine that we are the fastest growing city, whether we're the first or the second, imagine that. Columbus is where it's at. So knowing that that is an opportunity for us, that's what we hope to do is leverage that opportunity, right? But what we are seeing is the pace of that development is not necessarily equal to the pace of conservation. So our goal here is to close that funding gap and to involve the corporations who are creating their home in Central Ohio to make them part of the solution as well. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about a program that we've developed to connect that global funding to the local level of conservation that's needed. This has coincided with the timeline for many of these corporations who have relocated, but also global corporations who have identified the need to offset their impacts to the water that they're using. And these targets have been set, as you can see, over the past 20 years. And so this has been a process, a work in progress, rather. And so now we're at the time where we can say, what do these projects look like on the ground? And what we're trying to do is actually bring together the corporations who've announced these as their global priorities or their corporate sustainability goals, and then meet them with the projects that are meant to provide solutions to that. However, without a system in place, this has presented a bit of a challenge with consistency. So no consistency in process, funding, or prioritization. And so this has led to the creation of the Watershed Alliance of Central Ohio. And this is a local group of local organizations, and it's formed as a consortium to provide opportunities for addressing our rapid growth through water restoration projects. And I'll just share with you a little bit more about what that model has looked like. It's an innovative model that is being administered through the Nature Conservancy, but what it's doing is essentially acting as a clearinghouse. And so you have corporations who are looking for opportunities to offset their impacts, and you have many, many groups who have those very opportunities, but how do they find one another? And so by providing this central clearinghouse, it is a win for the corporations that are looking for a centralization of projects to select from. It's obviously a win for the local organizations who need consistency in funding. They need to know a predictable schedule, and that's going to help them to devise plans that can actually be proposed for restoration. So ultimately, bringing these together is a win for conservation because it's building our local capacity, it's pooling funds to allow for larger projects, and it's helping us do the most impactful work. So now in this year, we are excited to announce we have a pilot project, which you're going to hear a bit more about. We initially based our project selection on the request to measure the maximum return on investment on cost per gallon of volumetric water replenishment. We spent about a year trying to determine what was the best way to go about choosing projects. And again, this was done with the Watershed Alliance of Central Ohio, working together collaboratively to say what are the best projects that we should elevate. So the clarity came, and it was agreed that we should be selecting the projects with the greatest social, economic, and environmental benefits, in addition to replenishment. And so a co-developed rubric has been developed in order to measure and score projects, and that's going to be what helps guides these projects for the future for selection. This is allowing us to choose projects with the maximum benefit for all. And just in November, we were able to announce the award of the project to our friends at the Licking County Soil and Water Conservation District, which is led by Kristy Hawthorne, who's going to share a bit with you about the Slim Creek project. This project was funded by Amazon Web Services, Bath and Body Works, Google, and Ryan Companies. And that, again, has been in collaboration with all of the groups involved with the the Ohio Watershed Alliance. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kristy so she can share a bit with you more about what this project looks like. We were actually at the site yesterday walking around. It was really exciting to think about what this is going to look like in just a year from now. Okay.
Good morning. Well, I'm excited to be here to explain to you a little bit about this project and how we got to this point. As Shana had pointed out, this is the Nature Conservancy was kind of the convener of some various groups, and I look back in my records, it was the beginning of 23 when they brought this group together. But in Licking County, the impact and the planning process started in 2021 with our friends Intel announcement for coming to Licking County and quite the buzz that it created. So we were able to join this group and talk about the projects. We were in the process of doing a lot of benchmarking, both in water quality and water quantity, prior to the Central Ohio group looking at it as a whole. We were able to secure $2.9 million in doing that, and that's where this project came from and other projects that we're currently working on. This area, and I don't have a pointer, but just south, the straight line across the bottom, that is Interstate 70, to give you a concept of space. This is in the Kirkersville area, so it is just a little bit northwest of Buckeye Lake, north and northwest of Buckeye Lake, which is shown on the inset area there. So when we were looking for projects, this one seemed very natural. We were doing a flood study in this area, so a lot of hydric soils anyways. And this landowner that we're working with, the Banded Brothers, it's a nonprofit group, is also restoring the section that is north of this blue-lined area. So because we are such a rapidly developing county, we are thrilled to partner with the companies that are coming in. The Slim Creek project is about between 11 to 15 acres of wet area that we'll be restoring into a full wetland. It does clean water from Slim Creek, which is shown there in the outline of the red area. The water does flow into the South Fork of the Licking River and also into Buckeye Lake. As Shana pointed out, we did do a site visit yesterday, and with the rain overnight on Sunday, this is our beautiful view. I've been there on multiple seasons, and you can see where there's 20-foot tall button bushes, and we couldn't help but step on the skunk cabbage yesterday. So it's just a beautiful site that we're looking forward to restoring. As we all are aware, the headwaters of watersheds are the capillary systems of the larger rivers and watersheds. This is a photo of the Buckeye Lake Feeder Canal, which is part of where the water will be going through, and me giving directions. On the right is Slim Creek, which is what we are going to be bringing into the land area for the wetlands to cleanse. And then on the opposite side is the creek that is carrying the water to the South Fork and Buckeye Lake. But we do have a lot of channelized waterways in this area, and this is going to be part of our restoration of it with the project rendering, and thanks to Mark Dilley from Mad Scientists who provided this when we actually applied for an H2 Ohio grant several years ago. That's where this project was a no-brainer to offer to the Nature Conservancy as part of this funding opportunity. But as Shana said, we are looking for all sorts of water reuse. Mother Nature reuses her water all the time. I love seeing the kids' face in the classrooms that we teach in when we say dinosaurs used to drink this water, because we can't make any more of it. It's imperative that we utilize all the resources that we have, whether it's the technology of the Water Reuse Association, the studies of understanding the water that we have to work with, but also the natural sources of reuse. So on the Slim Creek Treatment Wetland, our project timeline, we are in the process of finalizing the RFQ. So again, for the consultants out there, it should be published by next week. It will be about a 2-year project, or 1.5-year project. We should have the wetland constructed at the end of 2026. There is a 10-year monitoring program with this, as we are going to be measuring the flow in and out of the wetland, as well as the water quality testing, and working to add an extra step with a biological review of pre and post restoration. So for the decades to follow, you know, there's this is a very sensitive area of our county, Licking County. The southern area was swamp before. If Aaron Van Ostern is here, you can talk to him about the wetland that he built less than a half a mile away, where they found a 12,000-year-old beaver dam in glaciated ground as they were building this. Next door to this project, there was an Indian mound that was found when an archaeological review was done. So we're excited about this project and having it part of our maintaining our natural resources. One of my favorite sayings right now is that we are not anti-development. It's not that we don't want the economic development coming to the Central Ohio area. We are pro-proper development, and this is an additional step that I appreciate. These companies are willing to take and work with us at the local level. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. I thought that was a wonderful round of presentations from our panelists. So let's give a quick round of applause to everybody. Thank you all for being here. It's great to see so many folks in the room today. We love to talk about water reuse, water resource management, and I found it fascinating that when it comes to water, of course, it's a topic that brings many people from many sectors together. We heard, not today from any corporate partners, we do have Intel in the room, and unfortunately we weren't able to be joined by our friend from Amazon Web Services. However, we heard from nonprofits, we heard from government departments at the local and state levels. And when we think about all these sectors involved in the management of water here in Ohio, I find it important to discuss how collaboration can improve the effectiveness of our management. So I'm going to pose a quick question to the panel to kick off things, and then we're going to open things up to questions from the audience, both in person and on our live stream. So a first question for the panel, and just if you want to respond, go ahead. Not everyone has to go down the line. Is how can collaboration allow us to more effectively leverage water reuse as a strategy here in Ohio?
Well, I'll go ahead and
You can try it.
test. All right. So I'll go ahead and start from Columbus' perspective. Very important, because if we plan and allocate resources and don't have, for example, regulations from the state or the industry interested in coming to our area, it's all waste, right? So I think starting with that reuse chapter we started here in Ohio, it's really brought different folks together. It's brought industry, it's brought government, both at the state and local level, and it's brought consultants that do a lot of this work in the in-depth detail all together to look at how we can do things. And obviously the industry is a huge part of that. We have to have the industry here so that it makes sense for us. So very important, and I think Ohio, and I will tell you this, not just bragging for Ohio, we are kind of the model that a lot of industries look forward to as they come to these other states and so forth. So recently, Illinois, Indiana just started chapters of reuse, as did Kansas. They are regular attendees of our state chapter meetings because they want to see how Ohio is doing it and how they plan to do that in other Midwestern cities, or Midwestern states, I apologize, moving forward.
Yes, right? Okay. Yes. Agreed. Yeah, and in essence, that was the entire point of the conversation, right? When it comes to the Nature Conservancy, it is absolutely part and parcel to what we do. It is essentially the secret ingredient. I don't think we could accomplish anything that we talked about in terms of those creative solutions without collaboration. So, yeah, it's super important because it is what defines that win-win-win.
All right, and I'll just ask one more question on behalf of the EPN, because we have another program about water reuse and water resource management here in Central Ohio this June. On June 10th, we're going to take a field trip. We're going to go to the New Albany International Business Park and check out some of these sites in person. So maybe I'll ask a question to our panelists, if you want to chime in here, about what would be the value for an environmental professional, whether they're working in water or other natural resource topics, to see these projects, not just from the industrial park, but the wetlands and the conservation happening nearby. What would be the value to see those in person?
Networking.
Well, I would say from the professional aspect is also, again, what we've talked about today, that long-term planning, seeing how all these things blend together so that we can do it right throughout the entire state.
I think my trips to New Albany over the years have just been eye-opening. It's why New Albany? Why is New Albany growing Central Ohio? And a lot of it, I think, started when Les Wexner brought back his manufacturing for Bath & Body and the Limited at the time and all the Victoria's Secrets. He has built his manufacturing in New Albany. He kind of set the stage of bringing back jobs and getting off the demand from China. So I think everything has grown around Les Wexner's vision for the area, and it's just really cool to see all of the different pharmaceutical manufacturing companies that have come to the area, how they're able to sustain on an energy grid. They have their own energy supply in New Albany. It's quite remarkable. So I think it's just something that without a guided tour, you wouldn't realize the complexity of what they have going on up there.
Okay, thank you. So Joe Campbell on the side of the room over here where I'm pointing is going to be walking around with a microphone. He will also be monitoring a chat online. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you can type into the chat questions that you have for our panel. You can propose it for the entire panel or for one panelist in particular. But right now, let's start with a question from our in-person audience. Does anyone want to raise their hand and ask a question?
Online real quick, I'll take. So a question came in from Will Stan 67, and it's directed towards Tiffani, but any can answer. And first, they make a comment. There was a suggestion by Tiffani that water reuse may not be well covered by water policy. How do we encourage or require businesses who use Ohio water to do their part to protect and restore? Is policy needed? And I'll also remind the speakers to please speak directly into the mic if you can for the folks watching online.
So I think the policy aspect is just simply the state's agreement that it is a program that we will support. So I think from a policy perspective, the state of Ohio has deemed water reuse as something that we want to build and grow. Oh, I'm not close enough. Sorry. Can you repeat the question too?
How do we encourage or require businesses who use Ohio water to do their part to protect and restore? Is policy needed?
So the state of Ohio is not going to require anybody to do water reuse. It's not a regulatory program. It is really being spun out of either necessity or desire. The data centers desire recycled water for their sustainability goals. I think utilities desire to give manufacturing cooling water from their wastewater treatment plants because it's cheaper for both parties. It's cheaper for the community. We really look at water rates for our customers, and we don't want a small utility in Union County to triple the size of their water plant and then pass those costs down to their customers. But the state's not going to drive policy for locals. It actually, when you look at the equation, it's the cheaper equation at the end of the day, and I think I gave you an example. We're giving them the tools to understand that it is the cheaper option, but it's up to them to implement.
Okay. Kim, I'm going to run you the mic. Give me 1 second. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Winslow. I am the Assistant Director for Outreach as of 6 weeks ago for the School of Environment and Natural Resources. First and foremost, thank you all for coming. This is an incredible turnout. And then also thank you to all of the speakers. This was such an incredible program. This is a little bit of a rephrasing of what Joe was saying, but more for the individual level. How can individuals like me, anybody sitting here, show support for water reuse initiatives like those that were discussed today?
I guess one thing I would say is to use your voice. I think oftentimes people can get lost in the swirl and feel as though external factors are happening to us. But what I have seen, and I think others as well will agree, is individuals have power, and collectively communities really have power. And to your point, Tiffany, about really local communities being the ones to say, here's what we need, and really being willing to enter into those conversations, coming to the table and actually being a part of convene events where we're actually getting everybody in the room. I think people advocating for themselves is honestly the most important aspect, whether that be something that they strongly believe in or communities can agree is good for their community. So my takeaway there is just be active, participate, and use your voice.
Yeah, to add on that, I'd also say the political process I still believe in, so reach out to your here in Ohio, the senators, the representatives. One of the things that we're doing from the reuse side is we don't want that money drying up for state revolving fund or other incentives to make reuse a reality. So definitely reach out to your, again, the representatives and senators in your state to make sure your voice is heard.
Oh, yes.
Josh Knights with the Sustainability Institute here at Ohio State, and this question is going to be for John. So John, a little bit of the elephant in the room question is, if we're running out of space for reservoirs have you given some thought to actually taking the effluent that we're producing in the central Ohio region and turning it back into drinking water?
So we are. Right now, we're not really looking at a direct reuse, so taking that effluent and piping it right back in the system. One of the things that we're looking at is called indirect potable reuse, which is basically that well field I was referencing earlier, actually taking that effluent, treating it to a certain standard, and getting it back in the groundwater system. So that gives us basically limitless water that we have, because the other thing I didn't reference today, the Southerly Wastewater Plant or Water Reclamation Facility, which is Columbus's largest, wet weather peak, it's 440 million gallons per day. Now, it doesn't typically run that. That's usually during a wet weather event. Its standard process is 330 million gallons per day, but it does go up to 440. So if you think about that from a quantity standpoint, we have a lot of water that we can recapture and put back in the system. So we're absolutely looking at that. Again, that will be something hopefully, John, you're talking a little bit about today. If not, there's an add-on. But we are looking at IPR for that area. And again, we're looking at to the future. I think what we're doing with the reservoirs does buy us time. But again, we don't want to be reactive. We want to be looking at ahead. As we're talking about 1 million, that's 1 million now. Who knows what the future holds after that? So part of my job and the current staff, I think, really is to plan for the future. So those folks that plan for us, so we have the capabilities today, we're doing the same thing for them going forward.
I will just add that Columbus is not the only utility that wants to utilize treated effluent to recharge their water supplies, not necessarily toilet to tap. They are doing that. The technology exists in Utah, Colorado, California, and Florida. Florida also takes their wastewater effluent and discharges it down to their groundwater, not only to recharge their groundwater, but to keep the salt water from encroaching into their freshwater sources. So there's a lot of ways to reuse the wastewater and not necessarily drink it right away or send it to a manufacturing facility. And I would encourage you to go on to the waterreuse.org website and look at what all the other states are doing. It's pretty remarkable.
Great. I think we have a question from our live stream audience.
Yeah, Larry Antosh is with us. Hi, Larry. Will there ever be a comprehensive water resource management plan for the state of Ohio?
Well, not in my tenure. I get to retire in 2.5 years. So we are, I kind of hinted at the Central Ohio Water Study, regional water study. It's 15 counties, and we hope to roll that out in April. We are then moving to Southwest Ohio to do, 17, 19 counties in Southwest. And then about 3 months after that, we're moving over to Southeast Ohio, which is several 20-plus counties. We hope to do all over the state. We've got regions squared away for Northwest and Northeast Ohio. So ultimately, we hope to do these regional water studies on a rotation and keep them up to date, which will be a statewide planning tool. It's just difficult to do them all at the same time. But we do plan to keep them up and usable for the foreseeable future, and I suspect they'll all be done at least one round by around 2027. So to Larry's question, that is the goal.
Yeah, Linda, heading your way.
So I don't know if maybe this is targeted to you, John. So water is really energy intensive in terms of moving it around to places where you need it. You know, pumping costs are really high. So if you have all this water at Southerly down in a low spot for obvious design reasons, how do you manage that so that you think about things in kind of the larger context of climate change, and we want to minimize the impacts of that?
Yeah, so if looking at Southerly, we are looking at a potential, I'll say, region that we could use that effluent from. And again, we would probably have to have some some tanks, depending on the purple pipe system. But really would be the end result, if we do an IPR approach, is really just get that back into the groundwater. So pumping should be minimal. I should say we've looked at this already. So going a little bit more detail here. So there's an area surrounding our southerly plant. Just to give some just general area around that. So we are 2 miles away from my Parsons water plant. I am less than a mile away from the groundwater recharge place, where we would put that back in. And I'm also 2 miles away from Rickenbacker, which is both rail and an airport. So I would say one of the areas that we've actually fast-tracked to look at this is that area to minimize, so we're not pumping this all across the city, really looking at a regional approach where this makes sense for us.
I think we have time for one more question from the audience.
I got one right here. So I manage the stormwater in Newark, and we have a lot of sump pumps that run constantly in residential areas. I mean, some houses run 4 sump pumps constantly, and there's just water flowing out of these houses from the underground out to the street. And I always think, what can we do to capture that water and reuse that water instead of sending it straight to the river? Is there an example of, I know the purple pipe, can they use the groundwater to go back into the industries? Or does it have to be treated? Or are there other examples of how to use this water instead of sending it straight to a ditch, to a creek, or down a storm pipe?
One of the subcommittees that we have is to reuse stormwater. And so we're looking at ways that people want to reuse stormwater that we may not already have rules and regulations or standards around. And just because you capture it, you could reuse it to irrigate immediately, probably, but you might have to treat it from PAHs or, some oil and grease. But reusing stormwater depends on what you want to reuse it for. Are you capturing it? I'll give you an example. The Cincinnati Zoo captures 100% of their stormwater because it was going off-site to Lower Price Hill, which is a very disadvantaged community right next to the Cincinnati Zoo, and flooding their basements. And so they decided as a policy that they were going to just capture it all so it wouldn't run off and flood their basements. But now they have an on-site water reuse system at the zoo that they use that stormwater that Fritz and Fiona, the hippos, now swim in, and the elephants play in reused water pond. So at the end of the day, it can be captured if the community wants to, and we need to work with you and decide, are there existing rules and regulations on how to reuse that water already on the books, or do we need to create a new avenue for you to do that? And what do you want to do with it, if that makes sense? And I will say Justin Reinhardt is our stormwater lead, so he might have some ideas.
Well, thank you. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists. And at this time, we'll bring up Dr. Haab to close us out.
All right, join me again in thanking our speakers, Linda, Tiffany, John, Kristy, and Shanna. Thanks to Lydia and Jenna, our student speakers, for opening the program. As we always do with EPN, we have certificates for all of our speakers. Joe and Harrison will help hand those out. Harrison always asks me to make a few comments based on my experience and what I've heard today, and I always have to start with a disclaimer. I have to apologize because I'm an economist, and sometimes people will wonder, why in the world would an economist be leading a School of Environment and Natural Resources? Aren't these two things in conflict with each other all the time? I think what we learned today, and what I've seen over my career, is that no, they're not in conflict with each other. They can actually be complements to each other if done right. It takes a lot of different groups of people It takes people that are thinking about those economic trade-offs. It takes people that are thinking about the natural trade-offs. It takes us all thinking about a system, a human and natural system, and trying to figure out what's best for everyone involved and all of nature involved also. So when we think about these types of issues, these types of system-wide issues that we're trying to deal with, what we need to remember is that we have a lot of different minds that are thinking about these things. And one of the things we can all do through events like this, by engaging with Kim, who stole my thunder. I was going to introduce Kim today, but yeah. By engaging with Kim in terms of the Assistant Director for Outreach position, by engaging with our students that are in the room, by engaging with our faculty who are doing amazing work in issues like this. We have a number of people in the school working on wetland restoration. We have soil scientists. We have community development specialists. We have people who are thinking about policy. And so putting all those pieces together, to me, it's one of those really exciting things that the School of Environment and Natural Resources does, is tries to put all those pieces together. Sure, we have conflicts with each other. We understand that we don't all agree on everything. But what we understand is we're all trying to solve the same set of problems. And so bringing everybody together in events like this is just one of those things that we can help do to help try to solve some of these issues that we're all facing. With that, another thing I want to mention is that we have a large number of students here today. As I mentioned at the beginning, it may be the largest number of students we've ever had at one of our events. Much of that is thanks to Dr. Matt Hamilton, who was here earlier. I'm not sure if he's still here or not. Nope, he's in the back there. So he has his environmental policy class that's here right now. If you're in that class, go ahead and raise your hand. These students are the future. And one of the reasons that we do this event, these types of events, is to have those students engage with you, but also have you engage with those students. You've been there. You know what it takes to go out and actually try to solve some of these issues. So please reach out to these students. Take some time to engage with them. Students, as our student ambassadors were saying earlier today, reach out to these and network as we go forward. These are people that have been there, they know what they're doing, and they know what a lot of these problems are that we all face. Sorry, I got off script. All right. Couple of quick announcements before we wrap up here. Just a couple of future EPN events that we're all looking forward to. On April 21st, we have our Signature Earth Day event on the evening of April 21st from 4:30 to 7:30 at the Fawcett Center. We'll focus on the sustainability stories of 3 types of fibers: cotton, wool, and hemp, and as they make their way from local farms and into the clothes that we wear. There'll be some amazing speakers and interactive exhibits, including a sheep shearing demo that you won't want to miss. And best of all, this Earth Day program is free to anyone who wants to attend. Just a quick save the date. Continuing today's discussion in the field, as Harrison announced, on Tuesday, June 10th, there's an event called Sustainability and Growth at the New Albany International Business Park, working with a variety of partners, including with a few corporations new to the business park. We'll have a discussion and a site tour of importance, growth, and conservation areas of interest just northeast of Columbus. For those of you who are not EPN members, if you're not already a member, we ask that you become an official EPN member. You can join the EPN for free. It's straightforward. All you have to do is create an account on our website. EPN membership is the single best way to stay updated about upcoming EPN programs and other events happening in our region. Members can also post their own events and job openings to the EPN website for everyone else to see. Follow the link on the screen to register as an EPN member, epn.osu.edu. Once you join, you'll become a part of our EPN member community, almost 2,500 members strong. Postcards with the account sign-up instructions are on your tables also for those in the room. You can check out the list of new environmental professionals who have joined since our during the last month. Just a reminder, immediately following the event in this room, for those that are in person, we'll have a post-breakfast workshop. Mike Firmer and Dr. John Sheets, both from CDM Smith, will lead consecutive workshops. from 9:45 to 11:45 on Water Reuse 101 and how to overcome engineering barriers for water reuse. Unfortunately, we're not live streaming that event, but for those here in the ballroom, anyone can stay for free. CEUs and PDHs are only for those who paid for them. Okay. There will be snacks and light refreshments also. Just as you're leaving, just a reminder, we do try to keep this as a zero waste event. So while you're making your way out the door or clearing off your table, please help us return the reusable scarlet colored plate and cutlery toolkits with all the pieces accounted for by scraping off food off into the compost bin and returning these reusable dining materials to the bins located near both sets of exits. If you're unsure on where to place your plates and utensils, no worries. Simply leave them at your table and we'll take care of the rest. Finally, you can take a survey about our event by following the QR code on the screen. Let us know what water management topics to focus on next March. So, thank you all. I am going to apologize in advance. I have to run out the door to get to a dentist appointment, but normally I'd stick around and network with everyone, but I do encourage you to reach out to Kim, and I'm going to put her on the spot. She's more fun to talk to than me anyway. So, thank you all. Harrison, Joe, thank you as always. And thanks to all, this is just a great event, great number of people here. So thank you all for coming. Look forward to seeing you in the future. Thanks.